Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimaloe in Abuja. Tonight on the program, we'll be looking at the book that was presented today to the public about President Muhammadu Buhari's time in office. And the man who perhaps coined the word whalers is going to be speaking about what he wrote and his experience with President Muhammadu Buhari. Reflections on some of the issues in the activities, setting the record straight and clearing the air about some of perhaps misconceptions and perhaps some perspectives on President Buhari's 8th year in office. Afterwards, we'll be looking at the security in the FCT. The minister has been speaking about it. For those who say they've not heard from him, we will be hearing from the minister tonight what his view is. The minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, stand by for everyone, because we need to first and foremost serve you with some of your political roundup stories.
The Supreme Court has reserved judgment in the appeal filed by the candidate of the People's Democratic Party in Nasarawa State, Mr. David Ombugadu, challenging the election of Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State. Justice Kudirat Kekere Ekun, who led a 5-member panel of the Apex Court, also reserved judgment in the appeal filed by the candidate of the People's Democratic Party in Kebbi State, retired Major General Aminu Bande, challenging the election of Governor Nasiru Idris of Kebbi State. The Apex Court reserved the judgment after counsels to all the parties adopted their written briefs of arguments. Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Mfubara has tasked permanent secretaries in the state to be decisive and diligent in their duties to help his administration fulfill its promises. The governor said this today when he swore in permanent secretaries in Port Harcourt. Governor Fubara says his administration is focused on improving the welfare and security of the people, adding that the permanent secretaries are an integral part of the team to deliver on the mandates. Governor Dauda Lawal of Zamfara State has renewed his administration's commitment to deliver on his rescue mission agenda, stating that he came with a genuine intention for the people. Governor Lawal stated this while addressing a large crowd of supporters and party members on his return to Zamfara State after the Supreme Court victory, which reserved his sack as governor of the state by the Court of Appeal. To Ebonyi State now, where Governor Francis Nwifuru is reiterating his commitment to serve the people with sincerity of purpose, which is anchored on the People's Charter of Needs. The governor made the promise in Abakaliki, the state capital, during the reception held to celebrate his victory at the Supreme Court. He expressed gratitude to the judiciary and President Bola Tinubu for upholding the rule of law. The leadership tussle racking the Labour Party may be far from over, as the Lamidi Apapa group of the party has called for an audited account of the party and also called on the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission to investigate alleged misappropriation of funds by the presidential candidate of the party, Mr. Peter Obi. The group made the call while briefing journalists in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us on the program. So there are issues relating to security in the FCT. The minister has been reacting to these, and of course, the president has met with the service chief. But first, let's talk about what happened today in Abuja, where a book titled Working with Buhari was launched, a book written by a former spokesperson to President Muhammadu Buhari, Mr. Femi Adesina. At that book launch, former head of state Yakubu Gowon was present. President Bola Tinubu was also present, as well as former President Muhammadu Buhari, including his former vice, Professor Yemi Oshibajo, former governors and President Salvin's governors and the Senate President were equally present at that event. Well, there were different banters thrown at that event, interesting ones, and those ones that cause for some kind of reflection. So let me allow you to listen to, first and foremost, to former President Muhammadu Buhari.
We were as transparent and accountable as possible, being aware of the fact that posterity was the ultimate judge. We kept records of our stewardship, knowing that we would always be required to account for the trust entrusted to us. This event today is part of the accounting for our 2 terms in office, and I thank those who have labored day and night to ensure that this history is recorded for now and the future.
Thank you so much. You heard President Buhari there. What about President Bola Tinubu? He said all through the time that the president left office up until now, he's not gotten a call. He's not asking for any favor. But then, these are some of the words of President Tinubu at that event today.
I inherit the asset and liability of my predecessor. No matter what you say. We always joke sometimes. And you say you can never please Nigerians. But yours is to focus, work hard, and satisfy your conscience. And we will not rest, I promise you, until every agent of darkness is completely eliminated. It's a sovereign country, responsibility for nation building, staying on course. I am determined to do just that because I campaigned for this job. And you told me in our discussions, it's not easy. But I went out there dancing for it, making promises, doing kokoma, doing all kalangos, making music, so I cannot complain. I will be there.
Well, let's get talking about the intention of the book that was launched today. Of course, perhaps we see very interesting pictures of those who have run this country, at least in the last few years, together side by side, unveiling this book. Well, the author of the book, Mr. Femi Adesina, a former journalist who served there.
Who's this?
Are you still a journalist, Mr. Adesina? He was a spokesperson for 8 years. He's the longest serving, the person who's served the longest in that capacity for any president since we know. Thank you so much, Mr. Adesina. And good to see you back.
Thank you.
How have you been?
Very well, very well.
Congratulations on the book launch. It looked well attended today, and it's been a long time you will see that caliber of people, but those who served in the cabinet under President Buhari and those who are in the president cabinet. How does that feel?
It feels good. Feels good. Feels good. I think it's like a report card for the former president. Almost everybody who served him was there. And it shows that they still believe in him till tomorrow. They just turned up. Ministers, Director General, Special Advisors. It was a huge turnout.
This looks like your own personal diary of the day-to-day affairs. And I see your mind, the way you talk, even when you think that your views are not popular, you still say it the way you wanted to say it anyways. It sounded like your language right here. But, I mean, this is like a reflection, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It features in the headline, Reflections of a Special Advisor. It is.
What is your the summary of your reflections of 8 years working with President Buhari?
The summary is that not many people know who the true Muhammadu Buhari is. And having worked with him for 8 years, having been exposed to what people don't know, the onus is on me to document it so that our adventure, some other people will read it and get to know who the true Muhammadu Buhari is. That's the intention. So,
and I'm saying this with a sense of responsibility, trying to break down the issues. There are about 4 or 5 Muhammadu Buharis. the General Buhari.
Yes.
The Buhari who started running for office, and the fourth try, he became president. There is a Buhari who was sworn in, and the one who says that I am from nobody, I am for everybody. And the Buhari who got sick, and the Buhari who came back, and the Buhari who ended. Those who believe that it's highly unpolitical and perhaps politically selfish too. There are those who have criticized him and said so many have different views. But the Buhari that people said was Femi Adesina's friend, and the reason why he picked you to speak for him in the first place, and the Buhari who got sick, and the one who came back from sickness. Which Buhari do you think that Nigeria did not know?
There are many narratives about President Buhari, and it depends on where you are considering it from. Is that classic story of 6 or 7 blind men who touched an elephant? Those who touched the side say, elephant is like a wall, a wide wall. Those who touched the trunk say, it's like a stick, a wood. Those who touch the tail say, an elephant is curvy and all that. So it depends on where you touch. A lot of people have different perspectives, different narratives about President Muhammadu Buhari, depending on what they think they know and what they think they were exposed to about him. That's why I felt this book was necessary, so that the real and the true Muhammadu Buhari can be known.
Summarize the Muhammadu Buhari that you know for us.
A patriot, somebody who loves Nigeria dearly, fair-minded man. Fair-minded. Those who call him nepotist, those who call him bigot, don't know him. Very fair-minded man. A man who will never seek to impose his own religion on you, and who respects your religion. I devoted a good part of this book to that. When my mother died in 2013, I invited him. He was not president then. I invited him to the commendation service in Lagos. He flew all the way from Kaduna to Lagos to attend a Christian program. He stayed throughout. Yet, some people will say it's a religious bigot. A bigot will never enter a worship house that is not of his own religion. But he came to a Christian service and stayed all through. People will say it's a bigot. I don't know what bigotry is all about. The same Buhari, our first Christmas in office in December 2015, he called me. Said, I know you're a church person. Can you please go and be with your family in this season? When you now come back in January, me too, I will take a leave and go and rest. A bigot will never talk about your religion if it is not his religion. So, I didn't see a bone of bigotry in his body. And they say he's a nepotist. I have never seen it. There is an account in that book. You get to see it. When he removed Ita Epeyong as DG DSS, and there had been talks about lopsided appointments. So he appointed somebody from Katsina State, Lawal Daura. When he called me and said, announce this new DG DSS, I asked him, I said, Mr. President, people are beginning to talk, the appointments are lopsided. You removed a man from South-South. Why don't you replace him with another man from South-South? And it took time to explain to me that before he makes appointments, committees are set up, a team is set up to search for who qualifies for that office. He says, when they finish their work, they recommend 3 people in most cases for that position. Now he says, if I bypass the person who is best, who is number 1, because of his tribe, because of his ethnicity, because of his religion, because of his language, say Allah will judge me on the last day.
But was that the reason why most of those at the helm of affairs in security were mostly from his region?
It explains it that
there were incompetent people from the south.
I didn't say that, and that is not implied. It means that when there is a search, the best is thrown up, and the best is who President Buhari.
There are a lot of people who have been analyzing and appraising President Buhari's time in office. And one of them is also someone who served in his cabinet. And those descriptions include being ineffective. He doesn't care. As long as it doesn't affect him, he's indecisive.
Who was it?
I mean, there is a former minister who was on the program. He said, look, if Buhari appoints you a former minister of communication.
I watched it.
He said, if Buhari appoints you, he will not even, if you don't go and meet him,
it was twisted. It was twisted.
Did you watch it?
I watched it. I watched Shitu, Minister Shitu. I watched it.
Yeah.
What he said was that Buhari gave you free hand to run. But it was twisted. It was twisted as being not interested and as being ineffective. I'm sure if you ask Minister Shitu again, the true meaning of all he said, he will tell you that his words were twisted.
Well, I mean, if those who say that when the president gives you a job to do, he just allows you to do it, yes, even when you are failing. There are those who failed in their roles as minister, and the president kept them for 8 years.
You didn't appoint them. You didn't appoint them.
But Nigerians, they serve Nigerians, and Nigerians could have judged them.
Is the appointer that can judge them.
But Nigerians, they were working for Nigerians.
The person, let me quote the good book. It says, who are you that judges another man's servant? It is before his master that he either rises or falls. That's what the good book says. So it is the person who appoints you that can really judge you. I mean, because there must be things he gave you to do by which he will judge you. And if by his own judgment you have met the goals he set for you, then who are you to say such person didn't meet the goal?
How would you describe President Buhari's pace? I mean, this reflections in his pace to handling things. The first attempt in his activities will be appointing ministers, which took him about 6 months to do. And there are those who will say that sluggish tendency affected the economy largely. With a benefit of hindsight, looking at things now, do you think that there could have been a better pace in the former president's handling of some things?
Now look at the first term. Took about that 6 months. The second term, ministers were appointed in August.
After they were sworn in, I mean, after he was sworn in May.
Yes, they were sworn in August.
That's the 4th month after he was.
Yes.
And those who will say that is even still very late.
No.
For someone who is coming back into office.
No, it depends. It depends on what were the variables. In the first term, you heard all the stories, how handover was not complete, there was virtually no records and all that. And things had to start afresh. I remember that the first 3, 4, 5 months in the first term, President Buhari was taking briefings from permanent secretaries of all ministries, day after day, day after day, day after day, because there virtually were no handing over records.
I mean, one area that gave a lot of Nigerians worry, and an economist here on this program had said, President Buhari set the regime of President Buhari set this country back 20 years economically.
It's the opinion of that economist. You know what?
You've never changed.
He has a right to his opinion. One thing about economists is that one does not always agree with the next one. That's one thing.
Indices.
That's what I've noticed about economics.
Including the indices.
It's like the economists are like your mechanics.
But what about the indices?
When
Mr.
you take, wait, let me make my point. When you take your car to a mechanic, the mechanic tells you what's wrong with it. And then you want to get a second opinion, you go to another mechanic. He rubbishes what the first mechanic has told you. And he says, this is what is wrong with your car.
Stop using roadside mechanics. Use proper professional mechanics. Because what the indices are saying, your example,
professional mechanics,
your example, Mr. Adesh, if you use proper, and I know by now, you should be using new cars. So, because this book launch looked like a very good one for you today.
Well, we give
those who are speculating that you made $1 billion from this today.
We give God the glory.
But congratulations anyway. But, I mean, one of those things that actually got a lot of people worried in the twilight of President Buhari's time in office is the Naira design. and the personality of Godwin Emefiele and the way he handled the CBN. You referenced that particular scenario here, and if I may just read part of what you wrote here. There is no denying that the Naira redesign policy gave us cleaner elections. It was people who had too much money that had problems with it. When it was said that the new notes were not available, over 260 million naira was found with one bank chairman. Did I take on the Supreme Court on the issue? No, I could not have. Some APC governors went to court. I refuse to judge people by my own standard. I'm not materialistic, but it would be too much to expect all Nigerians to be the same way. It is not fair to condemn anybody, but it is up to them and their conscience. I want to continue to conduct myself with clear conscience so that when I go to bed, I sleep off immediately. Do you think the president would have been sleeping well, looking back at that decision that a lot of people thought it was perhaps one of the worst decisions in his 8 years of office?
It is perspectival.
With people who died in the banking hall, those who lost their lives because of that policy.
If you listen to his speech today, he said there were hard decisions that were taken in government. That was why he apologized before he left, and he's still apologizing to those who were negatively affected. He said a country, from time to time, will still have to take hard decisions before we get to where we are going. That interview that you read was done in the last days of President Buhari in office. It was May 29. So he has had time to review the Naira redesign policy, and that was his opinion. So,
because some of these policies, some of the APC chieftains had said there was a pact. This is a theory. There was a pact that the president had, and the president never supported Bola Tinubu, didn't want to support him. No, there was a pact that he had with Atiku Abubakar of the PDP. And these are, I'm saying that the APC people are the ones saying this, and that, he is a man who stayed aloof, and he never cared much on politics. He left the APC in the rain and left them up and dry.
Because they don't know. We excuse their ignorance. Whoever said that is ignorant.
What is the fact?
The fact is that the president is an APC member. He still said it today, that he remains committed to the APC. And the process that led to the emergence of a president, he was neutral. He was neutral. He could have teleguided it if he wanted, but he was neutral.
Well, looking back, how would you, and perhaps before I ask you that question, would you like to apologize tonight for some people you rechristened? In your very early time in office, you called some Nigerians whalers. Looking back, would you like to apologize to them tonight?
Were they whaling? They were whaling. So
you see them the same manner?
The epithet fitted them because they were whaling. They thought that the way to get the government to do their bidding was to shout at the rooftops, was to try to distract the government as much as possible. And let me tell you the history of whaling whalers. The PDP spokesman at that time was a man named Olisa Metu. Anything the government did, a government that was new, anything he did, quickly, he will issue a statement. It rained too much, statement. It didn't rain at all, statement. He saw a wall gecko in his room, statement. It is Buhari that is behind it. Now, one day I just did a tweet. I said, these people don't know that they are out of power. And they will be out of power for a while to come. And I ended that tweet with whaling whalers. I was referring to the PDP, and particularly the spokesman, Olisa Metu. Then, the ones they call netizens online now, took it up and said, he called us whaling whalers. Did I call them whaling whalers? No. I was talking specifically of PDP. They decided to adopt that description for themselves. And I felt, well, if you have adopted it, you have a right to it. In fact, I should even charge you for copyright violation.
So you still maintain your stand that the PDP are whalers?
Well, the way they comported themselves in the early days of Buhari in government.
I mean, how
they
would
were
you
willing.
describe opposition party as wailer? Those who are wailing.
They were willing. They were willing.
Don't you think it sounded derogatory?
No. It's not derogatory because that was exactly what they were doing. It's a description of what they were doing.
They were wailing.
Oh, they were.
I mean, even when they feel that your government was not performing.
The government hadn't even started. That tweet, go and check it. It was done in August 2015 when the government was barely 2 months. It was done.
How did you cope? I know you are a Foursquare Gospel Church member. If Reuben Abati said there's a spiritual side to the villa, how did you cope when you were in office? Did you see those?
If you read that,
tell us about it.
It's there in that book.
No, say it. You're on TV now. Those who don't have access to it. What did you do? Were you doing all night vigil and fasting?
I didn't see anything like that. No witches, no wizards, nothing like that in the villa. Reuben Abati said the house they gave him in the villa, he didn't sleep there for one night because when he attempted to sleep there, fire just broke out in the place, so he ran away. I slept in my house for 8 years. Not only did I sleep, I was snoring.
You covered it with the blood of Jesus?
Naturally, as a Christian, you pray anywhere you are. But I was even snoring. I snored so much that I woke myself up with the sound of my snoring. That shows you that I was at peace.
Maybe there were friendlier spiritual forces that didn't work with Reuben Abati, but worked with you.
Nothing like that.
So the villa was cleansed of the spiritual.
It's not haunted at all. It's not a haunted place. It's not a haunted. And the question I raised, the poster I gave to Reuben Abati was that if you said the villa was haunted, why did they fight tooth and nail to win the 2015 election? If they had won the 2015 election and President Jonathan had asked him to continue as special advisor, he would have continued in a place that was haunted. So that's it.
In trying to wrap up the conversation, Mr. Adesina, for those who are heavily, and I know you are a forever Buharist. There is hardly anything anybody can say about Muhammadu Buhari that you will not debate.
I said in my speech today that Buhari for me is a conviction. It's a conviction.
Next to your faith?
Yes. Maybe after my faith. But Buhari for me is a conviction. The man I admire so much.
Even with his frailties?
Well, don't you have frailties? Don't I have? Everybody has. Everybody has.
So, I mean, those who think that it was a failure of 8 years governing this country, what would you say to them?
They have a right to their opinion. That's what I was saying.
Without using those words.
What I would say is that there is no blindness like deliberate blindness. When you decide to be deliberately blind, your eyes are open and you see nothing. That's it. That's how I describe those people. That book you have there are about 80 pages of Buhari's achievements embedded in the middle of it, in different sectors. Some people who read it, they say, ha, this man walked.
On a final note, Mr. Adesina, and I know that if I allow you, we'll have to add 2 hours for you to chronicle Buhari's performance. Yeah. But if there is one thing that they are given the opportunity to say about Buhari in terms of its performance in 8 years, what would you say is the ultimate?
The ultimate for me is that the economy was diversified under him. Since 1960, Nigeria, it had been a mantra for government after government that we will diversify our economy. We will diversify our economy. Yet, petroleum remained the mainstay of the Nigerian economy. But under Buhari, petroleum, from 80% contribution to GDP, it began to contribute just 9%. He succeeded in diversifying the economy. Agriculture, ICT, even manufacturing inched up a little bit. So he succeeded in diversifying the economy.
The economy, a lot of people think that, in fact, that was his worst sector of performance.
It's also perspective.
No, indices are saying so. Nigerians became 133 million Nigerians became multidimensionally poor.
Not all indices.
Almost half of Nigerian population cannot afford $1 to feed per day.
And what happened?
Unemployment went to 33%, Mr. Adesina. Inflation rate went to double figures in almost all the 8 years of President Buhari's time in office.
What was unemployment when he got there in 2015? Campaigning towards 2015 election, he used about 35 million Nigerians being unemployed. That was the statistics as at the build-up to 2015 election. So it's not new. It had always been there. It has always been there.
But Buhari compounded it.
But in some other areas, he ameliorated things and improved on things, particularly diversification of the economy.
The convinced Buhari.
Yes.
Mr. Femi Adesina, it's good to see you.
Yes.
It's been some time, and I wish you the very best.
Thank you.
So what are you up to now?
A lot of things. I've been writing this. Okay. We left government 7 months ago. So in 7 months,
you were able to produce
I was able to produce.
A retired journalist, a former presidential spokesperson?
Not retired. I have some things up my sleeve. And
what is that? You're going to the United Nations? You're going to be the governor of your state? What exactly is it?
I'm not a politician.
But you were in political office for 8 years.
Yeah, as a professional in a political office.
So you don't want to tell us what you are up to now?
No, it will never hide. It's like pregnancy. Pregnancy never hides.
So we should expect it?
Oh, yes, sure.
Femi Adesina, a former spokesperson of former President Buhari. Thank you indeed, and I wish you the very best. The author of Walking with Buhari, a retired journalist. He doesn't like
I never agree with you on that.
Thank you. It's good to see you again, Mr. Adesina.
Thank you.
But we take a break, everyone. Our attention will be turned to security. When we come back, we'll be hearing from Minister Nyesom Wike about the FCT and its security. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Everyone for staying with us. So today, after the book launch, the president went back to his office in the villa and he had a meeting with service chiefs. We are hoping to hear details of what came out of that meeting. However, the minister of the FCT, Mr. Nyesom Wike, has been meeting with members of his team and he called for an emergency meeting. Take a listen to what he had to say about the security situation in the FCT.
But all of us are concerned as the Federal Capital Territory that houses virtually every Nigerian. We owe a duty to make sure that this place is safe. We'll do all we can. And we're sure Nigerians who reside here that there's no need for panic.
As the minister, Nyesom Wike, that's what he says. No need for panic. Those are the words from him today, and that gets us talking. The Inspector General of Police, Mr. Kayode Egbetokun, has also been responding to this. He said that he's going to intensify effort to decimate the activities of the kidnappers and stem the tide and the spate of violence in the Capital Territory. Yesterday, we had this conversation. Yeah, those who are kidnapped, those who are being killed. The security situation gets a lot of people worried. My guest yesterday said it's getting worrisome to the point that it will scare a lot of people away from Nigeria's capital. Let's get talking and let's get more insight into what this means. I'm being joined tonight by Dr. Charles Omole, a former National Security Advisor to the Speaker of the House of Reps, a member of the Presidential Working Group on Police Reform, the Director General Founder, Institute for Police and Security Policy Research. He's a lawyer and the National Security Reform expert. Dr. Omole, thank you so much indeed for coming tonight.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks.
What is the problem in the FCT?
Well, the problem in the FCT, I think, is a problem across the country. I think FCT has been kind of insulated, I think, a little bit from some of these problems. So the trend started actually about a year ago, so that the sort of gradual increase, and it started purely from the outskirts of FCT, and now gradually they're moving in, being emboldened. The problem is a problem that reflects the insecurity across the country. And I think there are solutions that the government can sort of implement if that is...
I'm curious though, Doc, to see that there are Chinese inscription on some newly mounted poles which had some devices on it, and I imagine maybe they are CCTV cameras, but up to today we've not even been able to solve the riddle of the CCTV cameras that Nigeria spend millions of naira on, and these are the kind of scam and scandal that goes on in this country. And I see those Chinese installed. I thought those were CCTV, aren't they?
Well, no, some, I mean, the ones now tend to be more of traffic lights and traffic islands. Now, the issue of the CCTV, I remember I was part of a delegation that went to China a few years ago. That's under the Jonathan presidency. And the issue of this CCTV project was raised. You know, the control room for the CCTV was installed. The cameras were installed. The last phase of it, which is to launch it, everything just melted away. And, you know, I don't want to go into some details about that, but the point is that it's a normal Nigerian problem that made sure that CCTV operation did not work. And then, of course, people started stealing the cameras all across FCT. So it's going to be, so it's money wasted, really. I mean, if it's to be done again, it has to be done and launched and implemented all in one go.
Are you saying that there is no place where we can monitor the city from a control room in terms of policing?
No, well, like I said, the cameras are not there. You know, there are certain cameras in certain key places, but as a citywide coverage, there's none.
Or a nation's capital that of a country that is this big?
Well, I mean, it's a valid question, but I'm certain this new administration will see the need to make that happen, and it's doable.
Because how do you want to police a city this big, that is the nation's capital, perhaps in sub-Saharan Africa or on the continent? I'm not sure any other country on this continent has as big a capital city as the FCT.
Well, you see, the challenge really here is when we talk about security in Nigeria, the problem is everybody looks at security agencies, the military, you know, but security is a whole of nation, whole of government business. For example, there's a need for the government, I said it in another place before, there's a need for the government to consider introducing what I call security impact assessment of its policies. For example, you go to a particular slum, there are, you know, find the houses are there, the houses there are illegal houses. There are 200 people live there. You demolish it without providing any alternative for them. The question you ask yourself is, yes, have you acted legally? Yes. What happened to those 200? How do they feed? How do they survive? There is undoubtedly some of them will take on criminality. So if you do assessment, so every policy has its own security impact. And unless a sort of security assessment regime is put together, where every ministry, every area of government know they are contributing to either security or insecurity by their policies, then that's when everybody will wake up to understand that it's not just about the police or the military, it's all our duties to be responsible for security.
If you look at it, I mean, I'm still very curious on why things have gotten so bad in the FCT, and you know, where you are strong as your strongest link, and Abuja seems to me to be the fortress of this nation because that is the seat of power. Everybody wants to protect the city. All security agencies want to protect the city. For you, in your mind, the kidnapping that we see, the banditry that we see, the activities that we see, and the fringes of Abuja, immediately, how do you think we can start tackling it?
Well, I mean, the number one problem which we are seeing in Abuja, or like I said, as exists in other states, is number one, lack of quick response capability. I mean, a very good way to explain this so that Nigerians will understand is, imagine you have your the fire brigade. All the fire brigade workers are part-time cashiers in banks. And then when there's fire incident, their commander will now start calling them around from all the banks and say, okay, quickly go to the fire station, there's a fire. Everybody understands that if you do that, by the time they get to the house that is on fire, the house will be burnt down. That's exactly what we have. The police do not currently have what I call a standby ready force to intervene in any major crisis. They tend to do mop-up operation, which is called this DPO. Hey, how many men do you have? Okay, I have 2. How many men do you have? You know, the mop-up men.
What should be the standard? At what distance and what perimeter and at what timing do you think in a civilized environment where policing is advanced should happen? How should it happen?
That is the beauty of the current IGP. One of the things he said when he became IGP was the setting up of the Special Intervention Squad. The whole idea of the Special Intervention Squad is that they will not be conducting any day-to-day policing. Their job is to train or go on a mission. The training or go on a mission. Therefore,
so it will be an elite tactical force.
Absolutely. And the idea is to have a 15 to 20 minutes response time from when they call them to when they're on site. But to set up that Special Intervention Squad, a lot of resources are needed. I'm not quite sure whether the IGP is getting those resources. I'm sure it will get it eventually, but the government needs to back that idea. The solution to our insecurity right now is that Special Intervention Squad. You see, I've been doing some crime mapping, of all the activities happening in the country over the last 2 years. For the major terrorist incidents, on average, it's taking 2 hours, which means from the terrorists move from their base to whichever village or whatever it is they want to conduct their terrorism, the time it takes them to conduct the terrorism, the time it takes them to then disappear. On average, taking 2 hours. Now, that means in 2 hours, we couldn't raise a response team to intervene in that particular place. That shows you the major problem is we need a quick intervention squad that their job is, there's a problem here, 15 minutes, they are there.
But I do not agree with you on one note. And you ask me why. This might sound like a joke, but it's not a joke. There are quick rescue and response team in Abuja everywhere. Every 10 minutes that you travel after 7 p.m. in Abuja, you have police stopping you at checkpoint. Those are people that are supposed to be to go and because I'm wondering you go from Wuse Zone 2 to Wuse Zone 4, which is less than 5-7 minute drive. You see 2-3 checkpoints there, and I'm wondering what are they doing when they're actually supposed to be responding to kidnapping happening in the fringes of Abuja.
Two things from what you've just said. Number one, you see, police have different squad and teams. It's not all police officers are trained to conduct every operation. So because you are in Maitama police station, doesn't mean you can be sent to now go and intervene with terrorists if you have not been trained to do so. So that's number one. Those who won't be trained. Number two, there's also the displacement theory. If there are many checkpoints because we want to sort out insecurity in this area, if you now remove them to go and intervene when there's terrorism, what happens to the criminals you're trying to stop here? So you're going to just have a problem where, yes, they will go and intervene, and then there's more crime where they left.
I imagine that you don't set up a checkpoint until you have a notice of an imminent crime, of a crime that has been committed. Because what is a checkpoint anyways?
Well,
because they never find anything. At least as far as I know, they never. Apart from flashing the torchlight in your face, and some of us who have eye problems, they almost want to make us to run into them at night. And the question is that you see all the vehicles at every point. I'm not sure if those vehicles are even fueled enough for them to move around.
Yeah, if you're asking me whether the checkpoint system is effective, my answer is no, it's not effective. And I don't think there's any intelligence really behind it. I think probably what they're just doing is looking at the map of the city, look at major gateways, major checkpoints, and access routes, and they're just kind of
giving a blanket cover. We have more serious problems, and you are deploying these men and with arms and ammunition just to do the barest minimum job. Where do we need all of these things? People are robbing people in their homes at night. Yet there's some people who are huddling out and checking a checkpoint. It's annoying. And when you wake up in the morning, you see that someone has been kidnapped. But yet some people are busy checking people's vehicles when there is no crime that is imminent. It's infuriating, isn't it?
You see, the problem is this. We have about 310,000 police officers. Research has shown that about 180,000 of them are not actually available for frontline policing. They're doing VIP protection. Now, the problem here is the mobile police unit was set up as a fighting force of the police. They're the ones that do all the hard work, and they've given special training for that purpose. I think there are roughly about 60 to 70,000 officers in the mobile police unit. But the problem is, starting from about 2006 onwards, many politicians and, of course, VIP started requesting mobile police officers as personal guards.
Carrying their handbags.
That's not their job. And that's part of what this IG is trying to treat by saying, Special Intervention Squad will mop up the mobile police away from security duties, replace them with the Special Protections Unit, which is set up by the police to protect VIPs. But, I think maybe there's a bit of bragging right by some people saying, I have a pole, guarding me. I don't know, because they are better trained in terms of the hardness of their training. But they're the ones that are supposed to be doing this frontline policing work, but they're doing security duties. So what this IG wants to do is move them away from security duties, replace them with Special Protection Squad, which is their duty, and then retrain them very quickly for the purpose of this Special Intervention Squad Act. And they'll be located in every state of the Federation.
So, this calls for us now to look inward and say, okay, if crime rate, as Beacon Consulting led by Kabir Adamu's team released a report, and it showed that November and December last year, there is the graph went up like that, and terribly, if a report is shown, it might be terribly gone up higher than what we saw in December. Crime rate and violent activities went higher in the last 2 months of 2023. I'm worried of what the figure will say in 2024 January. How do we then start bringing this figure down and bringing some kind of confidence in residents of Nigeria?
The solution to that is not kinetics, it's economics. You see, when I said that every area of government needs to do security impact assessment of their policies, that's what I mean. There's no point the armed forces killing, say, terrorists, and government policy unwittingly throwing more people into terrorism. So when government
policy, a social problem.
When government policy serves as recruiting sergeant for criminality, for criminals to come into criminality, then you need to understand that you can't kill your way into peace. So the solution here is, while the armed forces are doing their bit, the wider government needs to now begin to do their bit to make sure economic policy is there to sustain the peace that we seek as a nation. So there's nothing the military can do if more people are being made poor on a daily basis, for example, and many of them are turning to criminality, and you can keep killing people every day, you will just having more people being killed. The solution is all of government approach, which is government have to look at what are the security impact of our policies and then plan accordingly in a proactive way. And I think generally the government, as well as our security agencies, need to move away from this reactive posture to being proactive. Many of the security problems are foreseeable. If, for example, the customs wake up tomorrow and say we are tripling the tariff on imported cars, for example. Now, that's an economic decision. Anyone who do assessment will tell you that car crime and car theft will go up. So I'm just using that as an example of an economic policy that now creates security problem. So government needs to begin to look at every of their policies, how it's creating security problems.
The approach of these current service chiefs, does it look like it is failing? Because if crime rate is going up, we're seeing more banditry activities. We're hearing the governor of Kaduna talking. We are seeing things in the FCT. We're seeing that kidnapping returned to the Abuja-Kaduna Expressway. These are the tales of years ago that had returned under Bola Tinubu. Are their approach failing? Do they need to re-strategize and go back to the drawing board? Because confidence is fast running away from their fingers.
Well, I think what the current government needs to do, which I think the president actually have expressed the same sentiment, is that we need to put round peg in round holes. The military needs to focus on our external security. We saw recently how the United States, UK, and a few of other countries went to send bombs to Yemen to protect their interest. So many of these, according to what we know, and that's a fact, many of these criminals actually are not Nigerians. So what stops our military manning operations in Niger, in Chad, in Cameroon? That's the job of the military, external security.
The military protect the integrity of the Nigeria's perimeter.
Absolutely. And then strengthen the police. That's a key thing.
Increase the number, possibly.
Increase the number.
President Tinubu says he's going to increase the numbers.
That is what needs to be done. But the problem is...
How soon should that be done?
It should be done yesterday. We need... And while you are recruiting, you need to provide more resources to train and to set up that special intervention squad that the current IG wants to set up. It is key. Without that special intervention squad, we can't have a situation where there's a major event, a criminal event going on, and the police are calling around to find out where to find men. And by the time they're able to put 50 officers together, the criminals are already gone.
So you also look at it that, I mean, how archaic our policing system. I mean, either the ones that are being used by the military, how clear is the vision of some of these gadgets to be able to identify criminals such that there are no casualties that we saw, civilian casualty that we saw in some part of Kaduna State, very sad situation there, to the point that police cannot be stretched that you have them everywhere. But one thing that you can be rest assured is that when criminal activity is happening, in 10, 15 minutes duration, they should be able to get on the ground in the nearest and the closest location to that. What do we need to deploy? Is it that we do not have the capacity in terms of area surveillance and in terms of land surveillance?
What we need is effective early warning systems. And the early warning system is a combination of electronic and also human intelligence. I mean, for example, there are systems you can map mount on trees, on poles, that, for example, will monitor a particular highway. And over a few, using AI, over a few weeks, it will give you averages. So, okay, on average, 4 motorcycles, sort of pass this road. Suddenly, if 40 motorcycles are on that road, the system will alert you that this is out of ordinary.
Is NICOM-SAT not effective as satellite for security purposes? I know it might be funny, but I mean, isn't that what we spend a lot of money to host the satellite, to be able to do part of security work?
No, I mean, if you're talking of a satellite where you be able to see real-time pictures, that's a very expensive project. Even Americans ration it. I mean, I don't know where you watch some of these American films where they have to say, okay, we need satellite picture of a particular place, and different sort of agencies are fighting over the time of that satellite. So it's a very expensive project. But I think there are cheaper ways of doing it. Example is what I've just given you. There are tools and equipment that can give us early warning system. And then there can then be human intelligence. What stops the police having informants in every ward across the country? For example, the DSS have officers in every local government of this country. So why can't we spread so that
growing up there are police informants that we know.
Exactly.
Growing up, the intelligence unit of the Nigerian police was very effective.
Absolutely.
If they steal a motorcycle within the 5-minute area, be rest assured that police will retrieve it. This was in the early 80s.
Yes.
I mean, it worked. What happened? What went wrong? What can this government do immediately? Because Nigerians, those who have, our heart goes out to them. Those who have lost persons in the kidnapper den, and now it's so bad that Nigerians are now crowdsourcing funds on the internet to rescue citizens of this country. It is a sad tale.
You see, the problem is that kidnapping, if you want to focus on that, has become a business, in this country.
A criminal enterprise.
It's become a criminal enterprise. And there are reports of collusion with some of our security forces, even with in terms of, I have personal experience of this, of somebody, of one of my friend's brother who was kidnapped in the Kaduna rail, problem, last year. And then they asked for ransom. I mean, we knew all that happened, when the ransom was being paid. But the issue here is that we always be criminal. What emboldens criminals in any nation, in any environment, is lack of what I call a deterrence. If I can steal and I know nothing will happen, it emboldens me to steal even more. But the moment this special intervention squad comes in, you kidnap, you are caught, and you are dealt with. You kidnap, you are caught. It will send a message to everybody else. But right now it's a free for all. But I believe this government is still early enough. But I think they are saying all the right things. But my issue is it's time to begin to do some things. I've given an example of special intervention squad, but the IG, he has a plan for it. Is it being funded? Are funds being provided to set up that squad? That, for example, is it. So the issue is no longer talking. Is what can we begin to do? So to wrap up what I'm saying, number one, there's a need for more proactive rather than reactive. Number two, there's a need for early warning system, both human and technology. Number three, there's a need for quick response team to intervene when needed. And number four, there's a need for security to become all of government department, because like I said, you don't leave security to security agencies. You leave it to the entire of government to deal with.
Dr. Charles Omale, a former national security advisor to the Speaker, a member of the Presidential Working Group on Police Reform, a DG and founder, Institute for Police and Security Policy Research, a lawyer and a national security reform expert. Thank you so much for those insights tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you.
But that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow, God willing. I'm Kimale. Bye-bye.